Funds India Private Wealth presents The Future of Private Wealth, Conversation on Lasting Legacies, powered by CNBC TV 18.
Hello and welcome to Funds India Private Wealth presents The Future of Private Wealth, Conversations on Lasting Legacies, powered by CNBC TV 18. This is an exclusive leadership series where we go beyond markets and numbers to decode how India's wealth creators are thinking about capital, continuity and legacy in a decade of extraordinary transformation. India's wealth story is turning mature with expanding entrepreneurial wealth, deepening capital markets, and a slew of first-generation millionaires. The question is no longer just how to create wealth, but how to grow it intelligently and consistently across cycles, across generations, and across asset classes. I'm Ritu Bhandari, and today we are joined by a leader who has shaped modern wealth advisory across some of India's most respected financial institutions. He combines institutional depth with digital foresight and long-term commitment to client relationships. Joining us on the show is Srinivas Mendu, CEO of Funds India Private Wealth. Srinivas, thank you so much for joining us here on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me here. Yeah.
Well, you've been in the business for over 27 years now. You've spent time at some of the behemoths of the industry, Motilal Oswal Private Wealth, ICICI Securities Private Wealth, HSBC, to name a few. Now, how has this experience of over 25 years helped shape the vision you are bringing at Funds India today?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, as rightly said, I fortunate to work with three great organizations in this country. To start with, I started my career with HSBC. So HSBC taught me the client-first approach. In fact, when I joined, the first training was a client-first training, not a product training. So that was seeded in me, right? For me, the client comes first. And also that great organizations taught me the risk management. So how do you assess the risk? What are the mitigants you should have? What should be your de-risking strategy in building any business, right? So I spent a significant time with that great organization, and that organization has survived centuries. So this is something to learn from that organization. And of course, I transited to ICICI Group, one of the fastest and largest group in the finance space in this country. That taught me the scale. Right now, the combination of client first, risk management, and the scale shaped me, and also helped me to build the Funds India Private Wealth. As you rightly said, I'm the founding CEO for this firm. Started from scratch, and today we are the largest wealth platform in this country with a 600 plus bankers. I think that has helped me in building this organization.
Wonderful, wonderful to know that. Now, let's look at the macro picture as far as wealth is concerned in India. How do you see wealth creation and wealth protection evolving over the landscape, especially for high net worth individuals and first generation wealth creators?
I think it's massive, right? If you look at India at this point of time, we are what? GDP close to 4 trillion economy, just above 4 trillion, right? At a per capita of $2,600. But at this stage, we have what, 80 in a mutual funds, 80 lakh crore. And last 10 years, we saw a great surge in the industry, right? We saw a 10x jump in a mutual fund from 8 lakh crore to 80 lakh crore. And look at the SIP book, which is again growing. Today, we are talking about 30,000 crores per month, But to put some numbers, till 2024, we hit 10 trillion. In last 17-18 months, we've added 5 trillion in SIP book, right? That's the amount of awareness which has been created and shift which is happening from in the mindset of the clients, right? So there's a great opportunity for sure, and we're talking about HNI account is going to double in next 2 years, right? From 8 lakh to 1.65 million now, which is doubling in next 2 years. Also, if you look at the HNI mindset, right, they are now moving from a fixed assets to capital market, financial assets. That's a big shift which is happening, and this data is also suggests that the investors are moving from traditional investments to financial, capital market investments. That is something. And the other thing which I feel is, when there is a huge opportunity, there is always a risk. right? At Funds India, we always constantly think about, how do we ensure, how do we help, how do we navigate our client in this, great story of wealth creation, or, in this generational wealth creation opportunity in this country. How can we help them in avoiding accidents, right?
Right.
And that's our primary objective. But I see a great opportunity, great shift in client mindset.
Wealth advisory is also a very competitive landscape in India. Now, what makes Funds India Private Wealth really special? What is unique in your advisory, in your strategy, in your service? What's the secret sauce, so to speak?
Yeah. There's no secret sauce here. It's all about client first. And when we started, or when we thought of building this private wealth, it's all about client. How do we align to the client and build an institution which is completely aligned to the client? As I said, my first training was a client first training, and today what I am is because of the clients, right? So, and second, how do I change the mindset of the banker? I'm just sharing the thought process of, behind the Funds India Private Wealth, the institution. So how can I change the mindset of the banker to an interest of the client? That's the first challenge I had right now. So a couple of initiatives we took, industry first initiatives, like, for example, there is no obligation on the retirement. Banker can travel with the client for a very long period of time, right? That allows, the banker to be with the client and the client's family and the next generation, right? For a very long period of time. Second, we also wanted to, align the RM to a client interest. To make that happen, we've removed the revenue target. So with that couple of industry first, initiatives, we are able to build it much quicker and faster, and we are able to win clients as well, right? With that right intent.
Right. And you're also backed by WestBridge Capital. Now, how does that really provide the kind of stability and the, obviously deep pockets that you need for a business like this? Is it helping directly build customer trust as well?
Things like an investor, right? They are like a Tata Sons from a mindset point of view, right? They build businesses for a long period of time. They don't invest anything for a decadal view, right? No, less than a decadal view, right? So that really helps. And wealth management is a longevity business, right? So longevity businesses, you have to think a very long period of time. If you have to think long period of time, you need to have a long-term capital as well. And WestBridge, provides that. And as I said, they have that investor mindset, and they've been in India for the last 25 years. Managing their clients' money in India for the last 25 years generated a significant alpha. I mean, their returns are, mid $25.
While we speak of longevity, you spoke about the relationship managers having a long-term relationship with the client. Now, how are RMs at Funds India really building that intergenerational trust as well?
It's all about changing the mindset, right? Today, banker, this profession is like a doctor's profession. Let me give you a perspective, right? Look at the doctors. The more the senior doctor, more patients go. That because of the experience, right? The doctor carries. The same way for us, the more experience we gain, more clients come to us because the more cycles we would have experienced, right? So when we have that experience, why should I, put a condition to a banker that at 60 you should retire? Yeah. So when we show them the path, the longevity path, and India at 4 trillion, as I said, there's a huge opportunity. We are seeing a next 10 years, I think we're going to see a structural change, in terms of wealth management in this space. I mean, if I have to compare with US, Mridu, US at the same stage, when it was a 4 trillion to 8 trillion journey, we are in that 4 to 8 trillion journey, right? US saw 100x jump in mutual funds industry. And it is going to be a win-win for client and also for the banker. It's just that we have to give that guidance and direction to the private bankers.
Yeah. And perhaps help clients choose the right products.
Of course.
Because I think the initial game of mutual funds was mutual fund sahi hai, just building the awareness about the asset class. Now, what's the next decade of mutual funds? What should the messaging look like for you?
So it's, for us at Funds India, we keep saying, right, there's a great campaign run by AMFI, mutual fund sahi hai, but kaun sa mutual fund sahi hai? Which mutual fund is right? Right? That's something we know at Funds India. We know not only on the mutual funds, beyond mutual funds, right? We do everything, right? Various asset classes. All we do is with that integrity, ensuring that, we help clients in avoiding accidents. We are in a business, or we are in a, I would say this is the eighth wonder called compounding, right? So business keeps compounding, the, wealth keeps compounding. All we have to ensure that in this great country for next 20 years, right? From 4 trillion to 25, 30 trillion economy, which is going to, become. In this journey, all we have to do is to avoid accidents.
Well, based on your client interactions, give us a peep into the HNI mindset. Post-2020, post-COVID, has that mindset really changed? And, what are some of the most interesting findings that you have in your conversations with ultra HNIs or HNIs today?
Of course, see, HNIs are well-read, well-traveled, well-informed clients, right? So I think, their mindset is shifting from wealth creation, or from there to a risk-managed wealth management, I mean, how do you manage the risk? That is what I think. And we also believe that simplicity makes a big difference, right? Our approach is always a simple approach. We want to construct a simple portfolios, keep it simple for clients. The more the simpler, they hire the alpha, right? Even the clients are, have experienced it last 10, 15 years. They've experienced with different, strategies and different product ideas in the industry, right? And today they've aligned and they wanted a simple solutions. That's one. Second, the big shift is moving from physical asset to a capital market. That is something which we are seeing. Capital, the real estate money or gold is moving into a capital market. That's a big shift which is happening. The third one is, their exposure towards the private placements and the alternates is increasing. The proportionate, allocation towards these two, asset classes is increasing. That is a big shift, according to me. And of course, even the data and the study says, Goldman Sachs, I read somewhere, it says that India is going to see what, $9.5 trillion of household savings into a capital market right now. I mean,
these are also volatile times. There's a lot of geopolitical tension going on. Markets are volatile, often choppy. Now, behavioral mistakes can often cause, loss of wealth to investors. So when it comes to HNIs and investing by HNIs, what are some of the systems, some of the guardrails, some of the behavioral aspects that you advise them on?
Basic, very basic, boring is asset allocation. Ensure that you go by asset allocation, right? And have that core portfolio, long-term portfolio, the long-term thought process, right? And, fortunately, India also thought and customers, our clients have experienced. When I compare my experience in subprime during 2008 and 9 to current COVID, post-COVID, right? The behavior and the mindset of the client also has changed. Today, they understand, markets are volatile. It is going to be like this, and, and they see this as an opportunity. Right. This VUCA world, in this VUCA world, any uncertainty is an opportunity for the investors. Majority of the HNIs are, thinking like that. Of course, for others who have that panic, we create that awareness for them. That I think, is something which is a big shift happening in the mindset of the investors, Nidhu. Yeah.
Well, on that very interesting note, we are going to head into a short break right now. When we return, we'll decode allocation strategy in a volatile 2026 environment, examine the growing appetite for private markets, and understand the philosophy behind Funds India's golden rule. Stay with us. You are watching The Future of Private Wealth, Conversations on Lasting Legacies, powered by CNBC TV 18.
Funds India Private Wealth presents The Future of Private Wealth, Conversation on Lasting Legacies, powered by CNBC TV 18. Funds India Private Wealth presents The Future of Private Wealth, Conversation on Lasting Legacies, powered by CNBC TV 18.
Welcome back. You are watching Funds India Private Wealth presents The Future of Private Wealth, Conversations on Lasting Legacies, powered by CNBC TV 18. In this segment, we turn tactical from philosophy to portfolio construction and explore how India's wealth creators should think about asset allocation, private markets, and disciplined investing in an era of global uncertainty. Now, Srinivas, Funds India, of course, really, pushes for goal-based investing when it comes to your, higher education, your job, your children's higher education, their weddings, your own wedding. There are multiple goals that, you advise people on. So give us a sense of how, the portfolio gets constructed. How does, goal-based investing actually work 101?
I think, that's a right way and right approach according to us. I think, any investor or any customer or any client, right, will have 4 to 5 goals, important goals in life, right? Starting from, first health and wealth, you have to ensure that your health and, your life insurance is taken care. the most important goal is for the kids' education, right? Are you well prepared? How are you preparing for the kids' education with the inflation and the global exposure being there, right? So third is, their wedding, marriage. Of course, that's the important goal. And the last but not the least is the legacy, post-retirement. And these are the four goals, right, for any investor. And beyond that is all depends upon the individual. But how can we help them in achieving these goals, right, in a structured way? So we have something called investment charter. So we prepare an investment charter, which is nothing but a philosophy for a client. It's like a Bible, right? Policy statement for an investor. So, along with the investor, we prepare that. We follow that, to the core. So that helps in achieving, clients' respective goals, right? So they're not deviating. We are disciplined to it. Both the parties are agreed. We and the client, they know that this is a policy statement. We should stick to it, right? That's basic. And as I said, start of my conversation, we believe in simple portfolios. We try to advise simplicity. We remove the complexity in the portfolios. Thereby, the alpha generation happens. The discipline comes from this IC, right, investment charter. That helps in the discipline. So these are a few steps which take to help in achieving their goals. And we believe that, goal-based approach is always right. And asset allocation, of course, it's an important tool right now in terms of as I said, 60 to 70%, rather 65 to 75% is a core portfolio. We look at, constructing it for a long term.
In the volatile and uncertain environment of 2026 that we are currently in, what do you advise to HNIs when it comes to long-term and short-term allocation patterns? What is it that you are viewing?
Yeah. I said, again, the core portfolio is a long-term portfolio. I think 60 to 70% should be a core portfolio. You leave, 20 to 25% towards tactical portfolios, right? Constructing a tactical portfolio, and 10-15% for liquidity, emergency, these three things. And within the core portfolio, keep it very, very simple. We do have a framework called five-finger framework, a very popular framework, proven framework. It has generated almost 6 to 7% alpha over the market, for a longer period of time. So we believe in those frameworks, proven frameworks, and in constructing the portfolios.
What's your view on private markets?
Very exciting, but high risk, very, very high, high risk zone.
Who should go for it?
I think generally UHNIs go for it. HNIs are going for it. According to me, if you ask me, our thought process, how can I democratize good ideas to every Indian, right? Because that's the market which is going to create a huge wealth. But as I said, there's a huge risk as well. Fortunately, we have, our investor, WestBridge is on our side, and we have their insights, their research. Honestly speaking, we reject 9 out of 10 private placement ideas to ensure we recommend right ideas to our client with a proper research. Right, that's the pedigree and that's the research we have backed by WestBridge. That is helping our investors also to look forward to have the relationship with us. When it comes from Funds India, it is going to be a solid idea from our side, because as I said, there's going to be that zone itself is a high risk zone.
Talking of client centricity and long-term relationships, you have something called the golden rule at FundsIndia Private Wealth for customer centricity. So tell us more about that.
So as I said, for us, everything is client first. We are building the institution, for the client to ensure that we do right things for the client. When I talk about right things for the client, industry first initiatives, right? No revenue target for the RM. We want banker to be with the client for a very long period of time. Therefore, there's no retirement. So all these things we are doing. But having said that, we built this golden rule, which is called what we recommend to our parents is what we want to recommend to our clients, right? So I'll give you a perspective here. If my parents or my dad asks me to invest, I look at alpha generation. I don't look at which product gives me high commission. That's a perspective. That's a lens I wear, right, when it comes to family. When it comes to a client, I should be following the same thing. At Funds India, we follow that what we recommend to our parents is nothing but, we don't evaluate products or, solutions based on the commission, based on the alpha generation. Right? Today, my entire product and research, they don't know which product gives what commission. Right? I think it's something, first of its kind we are doing, and that is helping us in coming up with the right solutions for our investors and clients.
Now, looking ahead at the future, how do you see wealth management, wealth advisory really shaping up in India in the next couple of years? What are the big opportunities and what are perhaps going to be a few big challenges to navigate?
So massive opportunity. As said, we are in 2026 at 4 trillion of economy. By 2032-33, we would be at 8 trillion of economy. By 2047, I think we should be anywhere between 25 to 30 trillion economy. This is what various research houses keeps talking about India. Right now, there's a huge opportunity in terms of wealth creation. When there's a wealth creation, there's always a risk. So as I told you, our job is to help clients investing in the right solutions, avoid mistakes, avoid accidents in the client portfolio. The compounding will take care. When there's a huge opportunity, there's always a challenge, right? As I told you, the HNI population is going to double in next couple of years from 8 lakh to 1.6 million, almost 16 lakh, right? And from there, I'm expecting a 2 to 3x growth for HNI populations. On the supply side, which is nothing but the bankers side, the bankers. Do we have enough bankers? I don't know. The answer is no, as we are not prepared for it. So I think even the students and the young population or young students or young kids in this country should look at financial planning and wealth management as a great profession.
Right. Finally, before I let you go, I want you to take off your CEO hat and wear your investor hat and tell us perhaps the 3 best things that you do as an investor that help you generate wealth, create wealth and protect it in the long term.
I think, for me, the discipline way of doing boring things will create wealth. SIPs, right? Investing in right funds, simple asset allocation, stick to it. Don't, look at markets on daily basis. Though we are in the markets, but I don't look at markets on daily basis. Yes, when there is an opportunity like this, get excited to invest more.
All right. So get excited in spurts when markets are down, invest more.
Get excited.
And for the rest of the time, stay boring and consistent.
Stay boring and consistent. Yeah, simple.
All right. Srinivas, thank you so much for joining us on the show today. That was very, very informative.
Thank you so much.
Well, wealth management in India is no longer transactional. It's strategic, multi-generational, and deeply aligned with India's structural growth story. As capital deepens and aspirations rise, the role of trusted advisory becomes even more pivotal. So whether you're a first-generation wealth creator or a seasoned one, the message is clear. Wealth creation must be intentional, resilient, and future-ready. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, invest wisely, think long-term, and build with purpose. Goodbye.
Funds India Private Wealth presents The Future of Private Wealth, conversation on lasting legacies, powered by CNBC TV 18.